because Montgomery Clift was in it. And of course, being not only a young budding film buff, a pubescent budding film buff, I was like, that guy's hot. Let's watch that movie. Was anything with Montgomery Clift or Marlon Brando I was all over that as 14 and however. You're wonderful to see. You ought to be in pictures.
What a hit. Hello everybody, welcome to the show. My name is James, joined as ever by my good friend Steve, and this is Every Best Picture, where we are going through every winner of the Academy Award for Best Picture from Wings right up to the present day. This episode, we are talking 1953's From Here to Eternity.
Hey, but you know the drill. Before we talk From Here to Eternity, it would be a great favor to us if you went ahead, you hit the subscribe button, ding that bell. That way you're notified each and every time we drop a new video. James, let's get into this. I think we've got a special guest with us.
Yes, we do. This is our first ever returning guest on the show, so we must be doing something right.
Yeah.
She is a film critic and journalist based here in Hong Kong. Her site is kaifeng.com. It is Liz Kerr. Liz, welcome back.
Liz, welcome.
Whoa, returning guest? I feel
so
honored. I feel so honored. Your first returning guest.
You feel
awesome.
Duped. I know.
Awesome.
Yeah.
A little bit duped, but also very, very honored. Thank you very much for having me back.
You're very welcome.
Pleasure.
And we are thrilled to have you back.
Pleasure to be here.
So I thought, why not? Let's just jump right into it. From Here to Eternity, we gave you the whole list, and this was your pick. So why From Here to Eternity?
Oh, this is a long story, which I will make as short as possible. That kind of goes back to my earliest days as a budding kind of film buff. Way back in the day, because I'm so much older than James. Way back in the day, I was the first person in my among my group of friends to have a VCR, top loading bitch as well, top loading Fisher VHS VCR. Anyway. So needless to say, me and all my friends, we'd cut school and run off to the video store and, catch all this stuff that we'd never seen, or, a lot of it was stuff that was on TV at some point, but there was still a lot of things. It was a new medium that were kind of new to the space. So as a young, budding film nerd kind of thing, I had the stuff that was all cable was new at the time as well. So I had all that kind of stuff. But then there was the other stuff that I was hearing about, reading about, as I got into history and theory and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of that stuff was from the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And I wanted to see From Here to Eternity way back in the day because Montgomery Clift was in it. Mm-hmm. And of course, being not only a young budding film buff, a pubescent budding film buff, I was like, that guy's hot. Let's watch that movie. Was anything with Montgomery Clift or Marlon Brando I was all over that as 14 or however. So I watched From Here to Eternity for that reason. Also, it was everybody knew, we'd all seen the still of Burt Lancaster and Deborah Carr on the beach and all that kind of thing, the crashing waves, the choo-choo train, the crashing waves, all of it comes from this kind of thing. So okay, this is interesting. I'm going to check out this movie. I think it was a favorite of my grandmother's as well. I think she was really into it. So it was, let's see what Gran was watching back in the day. So that's why I watched it. To begin with, and then when you asked, pick a couple films. Okay, From Here to Eternity. I have fond memories of that one for various reasons. And of course, looking at it again, this is probably the third or fourth time I've seen it in its entirety. Used to be on TV. It was one of those movies. It's on TV. You'd watch a little bit of it, but you'd only see a few minutes or half an hour. And then the next time it was on TV, you'd see the end and the last half hour. This, I think, was the third, maybe fourth time I've seen it in its entirety from start to finish. So it was kind of, I guess I picked that one also because one, fond place, fond memories, and I wonder how that looks now.
James, have you seen it before? Have you seen the film?
You know what? I thought I had. I just kind of assumed I had. But then as it was playing out, I watched it yesterday. I had to kind of realize, you know what? I don't think I've ever seen this. None of it was really ringing any bells or striking a chord. I mean, yes, like you said, Liz, I mean, everybody's seen that scene, that sequence where they're kissing in the surf, as it were. And I knew what it was about. I knew when it was set and where it was set. but I quickly realized that actually I had never seen it before. So
Yeah.
first time yesterday,
Yeah.
first time watching
Wow.
it.
Wow.
First time,
Okay.
first time for me too. You know, for
Oh
years I
wow.
wanted to watch it because
Wow. Okay.
I'm familiar with the beach scene, but I
Mhm.
always thought it was Frank Sinatra that was in that. So I didn't. Oh, it's Burt Lancaster. Okay,
Yeah.
now I get it. And because I'm a big Godfather fan, the lore behind this movie is that in The Godfather, when you know, Marlon Brando gives the film the horse's head, you know, to the head of the studio to get
Yeah.
Johnny Fontaine into the film. That was
Yeah.
supposed to be a, you know, it's supposed to be
Mm.
Frank Sinatra, and how they got him. Well, they didn't do the horse's head, but there was some supposedly some manipulations behind the scenes in order to get Frank Sinatra into From Here to Eternity.
Yeah, I mean that
Right.
one's gone back and forth about whether it's true, whether it's been debunked
Urban
or what have
legend,
you,
yeah,
Yeah.
for
yeah.
sure. But
It
print the
sounds
legend.
good. It sounds
Exactly.
good.
Oh, it
Yeah.
sounds great. It's a great
Yeah.
story. I love that. Yeah.
Exactly, and it's one that I wanna keep bubbling along for a few more years.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm gonna leave it.
and I
There's
mean,
no aspect of it. There's no aspect of it where you go, nah, that couldn't have happened.
right. I mean, let's just jump right into that bit because you know Frank Sinatra won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for this, and I was quite surprised. I knew he did, and I knew it was kind of
Mhm.
his first film role. So I got to be honest, I was expecting a little more from that performance or from the role. I think the performance
Mhm.
is totally fine. I think he does a good job. He's
Yeah.
skinny. He's skinnier than I imagined.
I
I
Yeah.
thought
thought
he would
so
be a bit.
too.
He's a
He's
bit
really
scrawny.
skinny. Yeah.
It's
Right.
really thin. Yeah.
But then I suppose we're used to seeing the slightly sort of more bulkier old blue eyes, you know, from his Vegas
The
days.
Rat Pack Sinatra. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. But I must admit, I found the role itself a little underwhelming. You know, there wasn't so much sort of grandstanding as I was expecting in the
Mhm.
role, and so I've got to admit, I was kind of surprised that he went all the way through and won the Oscar for it.
I
Well,
thought Sinatra was great in that. So on second viewing, I think he's probably my favorite of the top line cast in that one. I find him really kind of loose and easy and very. You can see the Sinatra. You can see the persona coming. You can see it bubbling beneath the surface. I really liked him in that one, and supposedly there's a lot more to it. I think I might have been reading into the performance, knowing what was supposed to be in the book or what was
Mm.
removed from the book, so to speak,
Oh, interesting.
which
Okay.
has a lot. So you kind of put extra in there, you consciously or unconsciously. I think I might have.
I was going to say, I remember thinking while I was watching Sinatra in this film, like, wow, he really does have it. He has acting chops. I mean, I've seen Ocean's 11, and
Mm.
there's, you know, some singers and performers that are not actors. When they go into acting, it's very obvious that this is not their lane. And
Right.
this very much I very much felt that Sinatra is just this multi-talented guy. The guy really is talented. He was natural in this. I kind of agree with you, James. Of the three, I found his role, and it's not his fault, but I found the role the least heavy. It had that least amount of weight to it. The Montgomery Clift, you know, role has obviously the whole relationship with the girl and his past history as a boxer, and then Burt Lancaster's having the affair. Maggio, the Sinatra character, is kind of the almost the best friend in a rom-com. He's hanging on the sides, and he did it wonderfully. But I guess that's why he was the supporting actor.
I would like to have seen sort of some of his standoff with Ernest Borgnine in the stockade. You know,
Yeah.
it felt that it was building to that, and then as soon as he got locked away, he disappears. And I get it, you know, that from Warden's point of view, from Pruitt's point of view, they wouldn't have seen it, you know, and then he would have been sort of lost to them essentially. But you know, we have the luxury of not being not, the story not being told from any specific perspective, and so we could have gone in there, and I would have liked to have seen a bit of that sort of behind bars brutality going on, just to have sort of built up that relationship. I imagine maybe that's something that there was more of in the book. I don't know, but
Supposedly, yeah. I did. I remember reading about this many years ago. That was one of those things. I mean, you think the Army and the Navy, you think the Armed Forces, the Defense Department is a big deal now. Same thing back then. They were supposedly, no way did they want any sort of anything that reflected negatively on the Army.
That's true.
And this is,
Yeah.
this is shortly after the Second World War. No way did they want anything that reflects negatively on the army policy, army politics, army dynamics. So none of that from the stockade was all removed from supposedly much more in the book, with a lot more gay to it as well.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
We missed that aspect in the film.
Yeah, supposedly the book has there's an element hinted in the book at Fatso beating Maggio to within an inch of life, but also sexual violence, which no way is the army going to
No,
that,
especially in 1952, 53.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense, Liz, because at the end, when the new captain assumes control of the regiment, he's very quick to say, nobody's getting their stripes by being a boxer. All of you guys, we're putting him on the latrine. Like, basically, this is not the normative. This was the anomaly. In the U.S. Army, things are done by the book. And now we've cleaned it up, and basically, we've sorted it out. For the movie's sake, we have to kind of have some narrative where there's some bad apples in the midst. But at the end of the film, we take care of that.
Exactly. You get the suggestion that because the whole movie takes place kind of in peacetime, the people were kind of slacking off and it was getting lax, and then as soon as there's the attack on Pearl Harbor, everybody mans their stations, and it's like, okay, he's out, there's new guys in, okay, right, now we've got a job to do, and you feel that they're pulling up their bootstraps a little bit by the end.
Supposedly, rumor has it, I think I read it in one of my film history textbooks ages ago, supposedly Zinnemann hated the scene where the army guys come in and get rid of the commander who wants Holmes, who wants the boxer, harasses Pruitt into being a boxer, lets Maggio, all this kind of stuff. He hated that scene. It was something the army demanded, and he was like, "This is bullshit." Because in the book, supposedly, the commander gets his promotion and kind of gets, kind of skates on being an asshole, being a bad commander, all that kind of thing, and just flies off to, some cushy job on either the mainland states or in Europe or something like that. So Zinnemann was like, no. But that kind of ending suggests, sloppiness on internal discipline, so to speak. And the army wanted that scene where Holmes gets his, and no, I'm not going to have any of that. Not our army. So, which I find interesting. Which is also, when I was watching it again recently for this, the entire time I was watching it, I was thinking, I would love you would never hear me say this under normal circumstances, but I would love to see a remake of this.
No.
That cleaves closer to the book, and that does put all that internal violence, internal sloppiness, is a little less rah-rah, so to speak. It doesn't even, it can take place before at Pearl Harbor, obviously, if you want to, stick to the book that way. But I'd like to see some of those subtle dynamics that they washed out of this one in a modern version. I think that's the kind of remake I don't have a problem with.
That's funny.
Let's make this.
That's funny because watching it for the first time, I was thinking, wow, it's pretty shameless. Michael Bay's Pearl Harbor essentially essentially kind of like it is the same movie, but without any of the interesting characters. He's gonna right, I'm gonna take this template where it's like 2 hours of romance in peacetime, then they're gonna attack, and then obviously that's where From Here to Eternity ends, and he's like, okay, no, I need the Doolittle bombings or whatever it is at the end. Exactly. But I was sitting there going, wow, I never knew Pearl Harbor hewed so close to From Here to Eternity as it does. But I'd be all in for a proper remake, really go back to the text, because there's so much to it that I think is as true today, or as relevant today and interesting today as it was back then.
Absolutely. I think that's why it holds up a little bit. It's a 50-50 hold up for me. Sorry, Steve.
There was aspects of the romance that I found were so convoluted at times that I thought, if we could update that, like I'm on board with a remake, because by and large, and it must be, James, coming off of having watched An American in Paris, and we haven't got to it yet, but spoilers, we also the greatest show on earth.
Mm.
These I'm gonna just play my cards out here now that both of those were, for me, they didn't hold up. They were just like, yeah. And it was nice to sink my teeth into a real film again. And I felt From Here to Eternity, despite the flaws we may address here, I thought by and large, this was a film like I said, and coming off of what I just had to watch, I'm like, oh, it's a real film again with real characters and real character development and real narrative and real story. Even though I could pick apart some of
Mm.
the aspects as we're highlighting. But one of the things I wanted to make note of was I thought it was addressing some issues that they're dealing with in the 50s about what a traditional family is. You got Burt Lancaster with the commander's wife, and she can't bear children. And there's a whole issue around not being able to have children. And what does a family look like? And then you have the Donna Reed character with Montgomery Clift, and she just wants, even though she's she's not quite a call girl, but she wants to have a normal life with a normal guy. And so there's kind of this 1950s. I wasn't sure
Oregon.
if it's trying to promote a 1950s nuclear family or if it's a little counterculture to it. I wanted to throw that out there and see what you guys thought.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. You go on.
Oh no, it's not a big deal. That's a hard one for me to address personally, because I am immediately irritated by anything that promotes that. That suggests that, oh, this is the way it needs to be, and this is perfect.
Yeah, sure.
And
yeah,
I just immediately get irritated by it.
Sure.
Probably because it's not my thing, so I don't.
Yeah.
I'm just not interested.
Did you feel they were trying to do that? Did you feel that they were trying to do that? Did you read that? Okay.
A little bit, but I wasn't sure if I was reading that because that's what Zinnemann actually wanted to say, or the writer, or if that was just the 1950s. I mean, if you go back to the two big romances, the two big female characters, oh my God, where do I start with those houseplants? Okay, first off, Deborah Carr, by the way, no relation. Deborah Carr is
oh yeah, I didn't connect those dots, but thank you.
So I know I say Kerr, whatever. For whatever reason, she's considered like the town bike. And he ruins their little beach tryst with this typical toxic white guy. And I love Burt Lancaster. He ruins the moment with this typical white guy. It's like mine, and oh well, what about that other guy? I heard you about all these other guys and all these other bases. Who are you to ask? What? Huh? What? And similar with Donna Reed's character. He comes in, he's like, well, I'm with this guy. I don't know when I'm gonna get another date after. Shut up. What's the matter? Why are you going off that guy? It's my job. You came here for this reason. It's my job. There's a lot of things that don't work now. Now I'm not knocking the film 100% for that. But that is something that goes right over, that is, you don't even think about it if you're watching it in 1953, 40 years later, 50 years later, you do think it is, you kind of go, have I seen that right? Okay, when is she going to slap him for that? So it's hard to say, or what I'm reading it as him going for, and that whole kind of nuclear family thing, because the two women that are supposed to be the other anchor of these fine traditional good Christian American families, the two women are both very, very, even without making them into houseplants the way they did in the film, they're imperfect, and they would be by today's standards as well. They'd be, oh, she's a whore, and this one is, she kind of ran off the rails because, in the book, she can't have kids because her husband gave her the plaque.
Okay.
Apropos of nothing.
Interesting.
So it's his fault that she can't have children, kind of thing. She talks about the miscarriage and all this kind of stuff in the movie, but in the book, it happens because she was ill, because her husband made her ill, because he's a hoe. So that's why I kept thinking I'd like to see a modern version of this that addresses those issues.
I mean,
you
I
know.
didn't feel really that the film was promoting sort of the nuclear family any more than any Hollywood movie made in the 50s has to promote
Exactly.
that through the Hays Code, where they have to sort of
Exactly.
say that um this is the direction in which your relationship needs to be headed, even if it's not there, and we're not going to promote anything
Exactly.
otherwise. Because what you do, I got out of it more than anything is that everybody in Hawaii is hiding from something or running from something.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
definitely this kind of outpost where it's a bit like we were talking about an American in Paris and how he's kind of this expat in the
Yeah,
city,
yes.
and because of that the rules don't really apply, and he has a slightly sort of looser moral code and all the rest of it. There's an element of that, and that it's, if it wasn't for the military, which they all keep referring to as a
Yeah.
family as
Yeah.
well, there would be no code of ethics, there would be no rule of law. Everybody would just be humping everybody and
Yeah.
living sort of either in the sea or in the jungle or something like
Yeah.
that. So and I think Captain Holmes is just as bad. They take out the fact that he gave his wife the clap, but he's the one who's running all over town, sleeping with
Yes.
everybody, and then he's the one that has a problem with it when Deborah Carr's character sort of flaunts it. Gives him back at you. He's rubbing it in her face the whole time, and then when she makes it vaguely obvious, he's the one that says, "How dare you do that? It's just different for a woman when you do that." There is a double standard, and he proudly admits there is a double standard. So I felt that the two women, I mean, you call them house plants, they're certainly not traditional domestic housewives in any shape or form.
Oh yeah.
Deborah Carr, like you say, she is the town bite. She is going around and sleeping with absolutely anybody she wants to. And I don't really know what her end game seems to be, other than revenge on her husband or whatever. She's just dissatisfied with the whole thing. Maybe what she does want is to return to the mainland and start a proper family. She understands and recognizes that you can't do that here in Hawaii. You can't do it kind of off world, if you like. You've got to come back. Whereas Donna Reed, she's actually running from something, isn't it? I'm not sure if it's specified, but you get the impression that she's there to escape something. And so she's kind of like hiding out there and is willing to sort of be a kind of hostess essentially. And it isn't looking to get tied down or whatever. And there's that nice little interaction between the two of them on the boat at the end, where they throw the wreaths back in the water, and they're like, if the locals say that if it goes into shore, then you'll be coming back.
Come back.
And another basically sort of saying, we are not in control of any of this at all. I know war has just broken out, but I think it was a nice way of sort of doffing their cap at just like, who knows what the future holds for us. Everything has just been flipped on its arse. And so in that regard, I think the only way that the film promotes the nuclear family is through the sheer absence, the total absence of a nuclear family, and going, this is why the world is in chaos.
I wouldn't say so much as promoting the nuclear family as much as it seems to be holding it up as the ideal to achieve
the goal.
Like this is where we want to be, even if we can never get there. This is where we want to be.
Yes, I would totally agree with that. I don't think that is unique to the film. I think that's just where Hollywood was at that time, and it was just like you had to promote those values, otherwise your movie's not coming out.
Well, do you think that acts as kind of the buffer to the idea that we actually have people sleeping around in affairs, and we are not far from the Hays Code, to the place where we think. Sorry, I just had a Big Mac handed to me, so I got excited.
I think it's definitely why the two women leave on their own at the end. Rather than why Montgomery Clift dies. For sure.
Spoiler alert.
that is for me what it kind of it goes with what you're saying is chaos, and we can have no control over anything. Arguably the most noble person who has the most noble intentions in this film is Montgomery Clift. The reason he won't box is because of what has occurred, and to the point where he's willing to do just outrageous physical torture in order to hold on to that conviction. And yet he's just gunned down at the end in the middle of Pearl Harbor's attack for just a accident, by and large, a misunderstanding. And
Friendly
it's like,
fire. Yeah.
it's just, for me, it made the perfect ending, because of course this is the way it was always heading. Chaos. It doesn't matter. Goodness is not always rewarded. Our convictions are not always, justified in the end. And yeah, so.
Well, and don't lest we forget, he was a murderer as well. He
Yeah.
murders Ernest Borgnine's character. So because of that, he cannot be allowed to live. They're going on about how he's married to the army. It's like, sure, but he's trying to maintain his loyalty to the army on his own terms, and you can't have that. I mean, his character kind of. I'm not sure if it's the first, but it's the type of anti-establishment character you're going to see again and again and again. I mean, On the Waterfront just the following year, Cool Hand Luke, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I mean, again and again and again, he is just going to stand up against authority and belligerently just put up with all kinds of shit that's thrown at him. But he won't. He has to either buckle or die. It's just
crushed for it. You will be crushed for it. Yeah.
His message will remain and endure, but he won't.
I just got to say, go ahead, Liz.
Oh, no. It's just that at the beginning, when you sit down to start it, okay, Hawaii, Pearl Harbor, it's kind of like the movie is telling you just by its location. Guess what's going to happen? All of this is going to blow up by the end of the movie. Like it's going to end in, as you said earlier, chaos. It's just a matter of time.
That's one thing. I mean, yes, it's Hawaii, and yes, you kind of know when it is, but I don't think Pearl Harbor is actually mentioned until you kind of move into the third act, and there's a sequence that takes place kind of down on the beach or somewhere in town, and I can't remember exactly the details of it, but I think it's Donna Reed's character, or it was one of the women, and off they go, and they just walk off past this street sign. And it just says Pearl Harbor sort of 6 miles that way, and you're like, oh no! I think it's supposed to be a kind of reveal little moment.
Okay. I was never. Maybe I knew. It's one of those movies where we all know so much about it going into it that maybe I assumed that, or I just assumed, it's one of those things where Steve probably even more than me. As soon as you sit down and watch a movie that's about the army that takes place in Hawaii, you go, Pearl Harbor. There's one base there. That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost certainly the first movie about the attack on Pearl Harbor.
Probably. Well, it's got footage from the actual.
Yeah, it uses stock footage at the end, doesn't it?
Yeah,
doesn't it? Yeah.
It's. I got to admit, confession. I tried to get through Michael Bay's Pearl Harbor, wasn't able to do it. I think I got about 45 minutes in and thought, life's too short.
I have a story about that. If we're going to just quickly segue about, that way before I was a film critic or anything professional like this, I was about like 22, 23, something like that. I went to the UK premiere of Pearl Harbor. I won tickets on the radio that morning to go to the premiere and the after party and all of that. And it was like a really sort of big deal. And I'd never been to anything like that on that scale before. I remember I had to go and find my girlfriend who was at work and get her to lie to her boss and say that she just had a phone call. I just had a phone call that her sister had been in an accident and that she had to leave. She had to leave work because we didn't live in London, so we had to go up to London. This was day off. It was day off. I won tickets for the premiere that night, and so I had to go get her out of work. And then we had to sort of get changed and get on the train, go to BBC radio studios, pick up the tickets, and we have passes to the after party as well, which was amazing, I've got to say. And if I remember rightly, everybody except Ben Affleck was there. So Kate Beckinsale was there, Josh Hartnett, Ewan Bremner. I shook hands with Jerry Bruckheimer and told him Top Gun changed my life. I thought I had it was the funniest thing. I had like three seconds as he walked past, and I just stuck my hand out, went, Mr. Bruckheimer, just want to say, love the movie. Top Gun changed my life. And he looked at me and went, oh, did you serve? And I just went, no. And he was like, oh, and walked on. I was like, I don't know what I meant, but it definitely wasn't that. So yeah.
Next
so
time Jerry Bruckheimer asks you if you served,
you say
yes.
Yeah, you're gonna get seriously caught out if you start pretending that
totally, yeah.
you're a veteran.
Yeah.
But that's my little story. I didn't like the movie, and I still don't. But
no, it's not a great movie.
It has a soft spot because of that.
I was going to say, when you mentioned Ernest Borgnine earlier, that I just came out off of watching Marty a couple nights ago, and the juxtaposition between Ernest Borgnine in this film and sweet, lovable, adorable Marty. That was a tough one to handle.
Borgnine is one of my all-time favorites. He is hilarious. He's one of those guys that you look at and go, this guy's a movie star. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. You go.
What a
Ernest.
career too. He had an amazing career.
Yeah.
You know,
He's
really strong career.
Great.
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but for me, primarily, it was from Airwolf, the TV show. That's where I was. That's where I was introduced to Ernest Borgnine when I must have been sort of pre-teenager, and then I
can see that.
And he's always been, hey, it's the guy from Airwolf ever since then. So.
For me, it was the Poseidon Adventure. Him going toe to toe with Gene Hackman. You know, basically he played the counterpoint to Gene Hackman in Poseidon Adventure.
That's a good one. That's
nice. The Wild Bunch is a big favorite of mine these days because I just love everybody in that movie. But
I'm a huge fan of Johnny Guitar. I don't know if he had a huge part in it, but I remember him in there.
Is he one of the heavies who's like roughing her up?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Trying to take her bar away.
Fantastic.
But in this,
Ernest. He's just so much fun.
Yeah, in this he's just a straight up asshole. You know,
from
minute one.
He's the heavy. You know.
Yeah.
He's the heavy.
Oh, absolutely. He kind of, and he's another one. You know, he's headed for an alleyway someplace. But
yeah. I mean, speaking of random supporting characters, one of the boxing team. It's not. I don't think it's the main guy that's giving him trouble. But one of the boxing team is George Reeves, who played Superman on TV.
Oh,
I saw that on Wikipedia, and I just thought, oh wow, that's good. That's good. Oh, one of the things I wanted to highlight was I thought it was funny that Burt Lancaster's out with Deborah Kerr in these really public spots, like they're in Hawaii and they're like open, and then they're making out in a car in like some dark road somewhere, and then a car zooms by, and to protect her dignity so that she's not seen, he covers her face. And I'm like, really, on a dark road? You're worried about being seen, but you were just at a restaurant in front of half of Hawaii. Like I'm trying to connect those dots, but apparently the powers that be behind the film didn't think that was worth considering.
That's one of those moments where you're going, okay, so I guess I shouldn't have said houseplant when I referred to the girls before. I think it's more a case of sometimes it's a little bit too much bitches be crazy in that movie, because the scene where they go on their first date and she flips out on him for being on time and they have their moment, that kind of cracks me up. But that's another one of those scenes where are you supposed to be doing this on the down low because you're sitting in a outdoor cafe for all to see?
In a community that's kind of expatty, you know, like I'm thinking, I mean, if I was to start an affair, there's nowhere in Hong Kong I could take a girl that somebody's not going to see me.
Exactly. Hey, is that Steve? And who's that 19-year-old with it? Yeah, exactly.
Well, exactly. I mean, I live in Sai Kung, you live in Park Island. I guarantee, you know, I'm not going to sort of take my mistress out walking around here. You know, people are going to be like, what's up with that? You know, that's at the very least, I recognize those people, and that's not the woman I normally see him with.
No. Oh, he's with a woman who's not his wife.
I get the impression that around there was a very small, tight-knit community as well. And it's, I mean, maybe I think we're giving them too much leeway, but you know, maybe no one gave a shit. But
probably not.
That's highly likely. You know, I mean, there are certain circles and certain times in history, like I don't know, the 80s, where it was totally acceptable for a dude to have, you know, the side piece, and I don't know, who knows it. And it's a minor sticking point. I mean, it's one of those things that you just kind of you pick up and go, what? But it doesn't really have a great impact on the storytelling or on, you know, what it's saying in the long run. Also, I just might like to add that if I was in 1953, if I was 1953 Burt Lancaster's side piece, I wouldn't care who saw it. I would take an ad out in the paper and go, see that? That's me and Burt Lancaster. Check it out. He is great in this. I loved him in this. I turned on the movie from Montgomery Clift, went and watched all these other Burt Lancaster movies after because of it. I thought he was just kind of this, you know, ideal. He's this kind of American male ideal, and I don't think you could have cast him. You could have cast better. I liked him better in Elmer Gantry because I like Burt kind of sleazy. But
yeah, well, that's a good point, because he is sort of the all-American sort of straight man in this, and I found as a result, I thought he's the least interesting character in it. Actually, out of all of the main characters, just because he is. I mean, sure, he's banging his boss's wife essentially, but beyond that, he doesn't really do anything interesting. You know, and all of the drama is happening with everybody else, and even the drama that he is entangled in, he's not the dramatic one. Right. You know, whether it's the stuff going on with Montgomery Clift or the stuff going on with Deborah Carr or with his boss or everything just seems to be sort of going crazy around him. And sure, he's a sort of beacon of cool and calm at the center of it. But I think because of that, I found him just a little bit dull as a character. Yeah.
I didn't find him that dull. I found him. I think I liked that kind of, or I tend to find those kind of still waters characters in movies like Gregory Peck. He reminds me of Gregory Peck on The Beach. That kind of central ideal that and all this stuff swirls around him, and he just kind of has to suck it up and take it. He's very, you know, stoic, but he's very kind of calm and collected in a way that's. I mean, it's suggested in that one scene where he gets drunk with Montgomery Clift and they're sitting in the street when Frank Sinatra stumbles over the bushes and dies on him. It's that one moment where he kind of lets everything go. He gets drunk and all this comes. He's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I like, you know, and he goes on and on, and then he just has to button it up again and become the commander as soon as the bomb stops falling. So I liked him. I liked him in the movie. I think Lancaster made a dull character marginally more interesting. So
I think that's fair. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. So let's look at the Oscars. James?
Sure. I mean, I think one little thing I just wanted to point out now is I think watching it now, I am kind of tempted to read the book because it's written by James Johns, who also wrote The Thin Red Line, which is one of my absolute favorite World War II movies. I think it's absolutely superb and was robbed by Shakespeare in Love, just to spoil a later episode.
Everything was robbed by Shakespeare in Love.
And so that guy clearly went through some shit. You know, it's clearly all like inspired from first-hand accounts. So I'm kind of tempted now to read the book, but as you both know, I've got way too many books to read. I'll get to it. Yeah, all right, the Oscars. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. It's the 26th Academy Awards. This was one of the years when it was held simultaneously in Hollywood and New York. And they tried to put it on They put it on TV. I think the previous year was the first TV telecast, and they were cutting back and forth between Hollywood and New York, and I don't think they did it for very long. I think it's a terrible idea.
Yeah, no, 3-hour difference. No.
Right,
someone's falling asleep.
But I think it's one of those years when From Here to Eternity, when the right movie won. I think in terms of the kind of movie to win Best Picture, it was up against Shane, great Western, but it doesn't scream Best Picture material to me. Roman Holiday, the William Wyler film with Audrey Hepburn, Audrey Hepburn, of course, won Best Actress for it. Dalton Trumbo was on the blacklist, so he won the Best Screenplay Oscar for it, but his name wasn't on it. And I don't think was put back until relatively recently, actually.
Yeah, it was a few years
ago, The Robe, one of Steve's favorite
I love biblical epics. I mean, that's the way biblical epics should be done, with Richard Burton, man. Gene Simmons and Richard Burton.
God.
Is that the one with Max von Sydow as Jesus? Which one's that one?
No, that's the greatest story ever told.
Okay. We'll have to do a whole season of these.
The robe actually is not about Jesus per se. Jesus
Yeah,
isn't really in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about the Roman centurion. Yeah.
Okay.
Isn't Caligula a major character in that one? I think it's from Caligulan times, I think.
Yeah.
It's about a Roman military tribune who commands the unit responsible for the crucifixion.
Right. And so he has this guilt, and he's trying to get rid of his guilt, and he ends up becoming a Christian and following this new
because there's no guilt involved in Christianity.
No, that leads to all kinds of chaos. So
okay. And then the other movie that year was Julius Caesar, the Shakespeare adaptation with Marlon Brando as Mark Antony, which is great. I studied that as school. I like that. Julius Caesar.
I've never seen that one. Actually,
it's really good. Actually,
yeah. I like that one.
Yeah, I like that one quite a lot. But yeah, no qualms with From Here to Eternity. I wonder whether something that helped push it over the edge was the fact that, I mean, this was directed by Fred Zimmerman, who also won. Is that he lost out. I think there is a perception that he lost out the previous year. That High Noon was infinitely the better movie than Greatest Show on Earth. And I think High Noon went in with a lot more nominations and then and ended up winning more Oscars, I think, but Greatest Show won Best Picture.
There's a lot of movies that are better than Greatest Show on Earth.
This is true.
I'm showing my hand now, James. We haven't got to it yet, but I'm showing my hand.
Because I mean, technically, this episode will come out after that one, but we haven't recorded it yet. We're going to do it straight after this, I think. But yeah, so I think maybe there was a little bit of a predisposition, should we say, to show a bit of love towards Fred Zimmerman. This is one of those years when I think if the movie came out today, they would have arguably what is called category fraud. They would have implemented category fraud because you had Burt Lancaster and Montgomery Clift both in Best Actor. And they cancelled each other out. And I think if it was today, you'd put Montgomery Clift in supporting. Yeah. And they could both win. As it happened, they both lost out to William Holden for Stalag 17, which is kind of fine. Even William Holden said one of them should have probably beaten. There was no lead actress. Oh no, Deborah Carr. Yeah, Deborah Carr was up for Best Actress, but she lost out to Audrey Hepburn. Donna Reed and Frank Sinatra both won.
Okay.
Donna Reed is a curious one for me. I think Donna Reed, if she wasn't was she a veteran by that point? I don't know. She strikes me as the Goldie Hawn, Cactus Flower, next big young thing.
Yeah.
But she'd already been around for a while though, because she's the wife in It's a Wonderful Life, right?
Yes, or maybe she's on TV afterwards, isn't she? Whose wife does she play on? She's in a sitcom from the 50s that come after that.
But I think here I think the people are rewarded. She was in the Donna Reed show for a long time.
That's probably what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, she was an American housewife and mother in the sitcom The Donna Reed Show that ran for 8 years. But I got the impression that here and From Here to Eternity, she was doing something a little out of her comfort zone. She wasn't playing the house plant. She was stretching, and I think people rewarded her for that.
That's very possible.
And then it won a bunch of technical stuff. It won Best Screenplay because there were 3 screenplay awards at that time. There was Best Screenplay, Best Story, and Screenplay, and then Best Story as well. Right. So I don't know what all that's about. And then it won Sound, costumes, black and white, cinematography, black and white. Back when there was a transitioning from one to the other. Now, I liked the cinematography. I liked the look of the film, quite a bit of it. I like that kind of that hard black and white that they seem to really perfect, and it looked really good. The scene where Frank Sinatra dies, it's just it's white and black, but you can still see everything. It's really, really well done. And when Pruitt plays Taps,
That's a great, there's
That's
no
really good.
dialogue in that scene, with the exception of a couple of quick lines where the guys in the barracks are like, that's true. And that's it. That whole scene is, it's quiet except for the music. That's really well done. It's visually a nice. It holds up visually.
I think so. And I think that, you were at that beautiful time of black and white where it was really easy to cut stock footage in,
Yeah.
and have it not look sort
Exactly.
of obvious.
You can't tell. Exactly.
Right. Yeah, no, I thought the movie looks great. I mean, I think the whole production is really sort of slick and polished, and it's got a sense of scale to it. There is a sense of foreboding. There's proper stakes that, you've got big stars, and no, I think it's just shy of greatness.
Mm.
I think it's not quite a slam dunk that I was expecting or thought it was.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of good stuff going on. I think it's a little maybe sort of slow, unfocused in its first half a little bit. But I guess, you've got a lot of stuff that it's trying to get through. But it builds really well.
Yeah, it's also a victim of it being, like you said, the Hays Code, the 50s. It's, regardless of who knows what's in the book, a lot more. And it is a victim of style. I mean, Burt Lancaster is a notorious lefty, and he would have gone all in on all the other crap that was in the book. None of them had any power to do that. So,
it sounded like they rounded off some of the sharp edges in this film, and I feel the same way, James, in that I really enjoyed this film. I thought it was a solid film. It was good. I enjoyed the actors. I enjoyed the story, but it did lack some of the overall gravitas that I was looking for. And it's funny how, having not seen 1950s All About Eve and not seeing From Here to Eternity, how much I came out of All About Eve thinking, wow, what a wonderful film. That is just a fantastic film. I love this film. I love every aspect of it. Whereas this film, there was still too many prickly parts in it that left me kind of thinking, oh, it's a good movie, but
yeah. Now, when you talk about prickly edges and someone who's able to kind of, right around those kind of thing, you guys did An American in Paris, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Didn't that lose to one of my all-time favorites, Streetcar Named Desire? Was that the year before?
No, Streetcar Named Desire lost to American in Paris.
Yeah. That's something that cuts me to my very soul. That I don't understand. And that's the kind of that adaptation in the tight 50s, and Tennessee Williams and all his weirdness, Brando, peak Brando. From Here to Eternity, I think when I first saw it, I'd seen Streetcar Named Desire right before From Here to Eternity on VHS. And I think I was hoping for a repeat of that kind of thing, because like you said with All About Eve, I watched Streetcar Named Desire and went, oh, what is this?
Yeah.
And I was hoping for the same thing from Here to Eternity. Same thing.
Yeah.
I like it. Solid film. I wanted just a little bit more. Yeah.
I mean, the good thing is he'll get his moment next year with On the Waterfront. So
yeah. Oh, one of my favorite films. I love that film.
Okay, so let's land this plane.
Like
So, does it stand the test of time? I think yes, for the most part.
Mostly,
it's a product. It's a product of its era a little bit, but it still has the power to entertain.
And you can't fault for being of its period. I think it mostly holds up. There's a couple of niggly parts, but I mean, you could say there's a couple of niggly parts about a film from 5 years ago. So
for sure. And
overall,
does it deserve its place in Oscar history? Personally, if I may go first, off the back of An American in Paris and The Greatest Show, hell yeah. Damn right it does.
Yeah.
We're getting back to at least the right kind of movie winning.
I totally agree with. That's the way I feel coming off of American in Paris and Greatest Show on Earth. We got to watch a movie again. I felt like this is what I love about films, despite any criticisms. Whereas I didn't feel with American in Paris and Greatest Show on Earth that I'm watching the film that I fall in love with.
The film of the year, really.
Yeah.
Which is what we're assessing it as. So
From Here to Eternity, overall probably deserves its place. It's got a whole bunch of things that can go with it. Its closeness to the actual. It was 10 years after the Second World War. It was barely 10 years after the actual bombing of Pearl Harbor, and I think a lot of those things were new at the time. You know, including actual footage and all that kind of thing. I think that was kind of new when it wasn't an actual War Department film. So does it deserve its place? Probably.
Yeah.
I think in the grand scheme of history, probably.
Cool.
Good.
It's nice to be all in agreement and in a positive way.
Yeah.
Well, Liz, it's been fantastic having you unpack From Here to Eternity with us.
My pleasure. I hope it helped, or I hope it was useful.
For our listeners out there, we've given some strong opinions about a iconic film, but what are your thoughts? We'd love to hear them in the comment section below. James, do you want to close us out?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, does From Here to Eternity stand the test of time? What are the differences between the book and the film? If you've read the book, what are some of the key elements that have been left out or have been added by the film? Do let us know in the comments. We would love to hear from you. In the meantime, Liz, thank you very much indeed for joining us, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
You ought to be in pictures, oh, what a hit you would be.